Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Table Talk. That's right. It's our podcast dealing with all things about first responders, mental health, addiction, and it all happens right here on Table Talk. It's being brought to you by Addiction Training Center and the Addicted Communities Coalition. And I'm Scott Jones, and my co-host, Karen Hurley.
Karen Hurley, nice to meet everybody.
We're very happy to have everybody here. And we got a couple of great special guests. They're coming to us. They're up in Palm Beach County right now. And it is Jody Marlow and Keith Bryer. And Jody is a retired firefighter. And, the list goes on, and we'll get into everything that Jody does as we go throughout the show. But Keith is active as the chief. Is it chief or captain?
It's chief.
Chief. Oh.
Well, I don't know if there's
We're going to cut you out, Jody.
I didn't know there was a difference. All right, he's the chief of the Palm Beach Gardens Fire and Rescue. And gentlemen, thanks for being here with us.
And Keith, don't feel bad, because once you retire, it doesn't mean anything anyway.
I can't wait.
You leave all that behind, and now your wife will be chief. And that's
I got news for you. My wife is chief now.
Well, how far is captain below the chief? I mean, how many levels are there?
Way low. They're like scum level compared to chief.
But the stress level's way down.
The stress level's way down. All right. Well, anyway, Chief Bryer and, of course, Jody Marlow. Guys, thank you for joining us. We got a lot of things we want to talk about today, but Karen, you had some things in mind, and we want to talk about them for a minute?
Yes. First, thank you both for your service. It's very important to me as a sibling of a firefighter who is no longer here, as both of you know, and hopefully we're putting together a great program, One Brother, One Sister, to talk about that and help as many firefighters as we possibly can. I've worked with Jody extensively over the last couple of years, watched him retire, saw how he began to work on that. And Chief Bryer, you and I have had many conversations, and I respect both of you immensely for all that you do. And it's an honor for us at ATC and ACC to be able to work with both of you. So I'm sure you have a lot to share with people about retirement, about what's happening, and at what you see. And please start out and give us everything that you can so we can help as many as possible.
So, Chief, first of all, it's just a great pleasure to be here with you.
Well, it's good to be here with you, and thank you for everything you're doing. So you're probably doing more stuff now than you were when you were working.
You know, it's almost keeping the same pace, but it's more focused now, which is kind of good.
Yeah, and I think it's all good stuff that what you're doing and bringing this forward, and having just recently retired and understanding what that's like and those changes that go on with your life. Who better to be able to speak today than you on this subject?
So retirement pre-retirement is an interesting phase. You think you're excited about it because you are. You're excited about what's to come. And you've got all kinds of ideas. And a good friend of mine said, don't make any radical changes in the first year, because there's a lot of ideas you'll have. And some of them will take, but some of them you'll find yourself back in the same model of your life and what makes sense for you. And so I took that advice. Right before I got out, I was even talking to one of our EAP representatives. And I was talking to her, like, why don't we create some sort of a debriefing or something for us, something that might lend itself to some more information. Because retirement isn't just about, what am I going to do? I used to be a district captain. All I knew was the fire service. Or was there anything else? Or what's next? Or what about my finances? Did I pick the right? Did I go to the defined benefit versus the investment? All these different things come up. There's so much. It's overwhelming. And sometimes you have the good fortune of meeting one person that's got great information for you, and they give you the information. My experience for me, and talking to other people who are recently retired, are, man, it's you don't miss the circus, but you sure miss the clowns. Yeah. And it's really great to have people to talk to. Sometimes people don't call you like you wish they did. I'll speak for myself. And so I said, I'm going to call people that make sense for me. Mm-hmm. People that I've respected, that have been mentors to me, that have really offered me a lot, that I generally want to know, how are you doing?
Right.
And that keeps it manageable, and it's something that makes sense, and it's something that honors our relationship. And you would be someone I would call. I call, other people that I've looked up to and worked with in a great capacity in my career. So that importance of staying in touch with somebody is so elemental that we don't even understand the value. Yet we don't have a buddy system in retirement. If you're lucky to have friends, you're lucky to have friends.
Well, what's interesting is you said that you reached out to your EAP. Was that something that was recommended to you, or you just felt that that was something that you needed to do to make this transition as you were going into retirement?
That was something I saw. I was prior military, and I have a little bit of a mental health background. So I thought it would be a good process, and yet there was nothing really in place other than, a checkoff form. Are you happy? What was your biggest complaint? And it's a checkbox thing, but it falls short when really, are you ready? You get an axe and a boot at the same time. Here's your axe, you're getting the boot. See ya, have a great life. And many people go into that category and they have plenty to do and they don't miss a beat. They don't miss it. They're good. Some people struggle, and what's the difference?
That's good.
And yet there's little pieces of information that would be helpful. So to have something for our retirement phase, it just keeps playing on my mind. It was really essential. But then I think back my whole career, and if you start at the end and you work yourself backwards, you can find out what information I wish I had when I started that I now know.
So that kind of leads you into this new passion, this newfound drive for you to start doing some education for people as they're getting ready to retire and start that new phase.
Yes.
It's interesting that I've had some of our personnel that have come to me right before, and they're apprehensive. And they say, I don't really know what my life's going to look like after this. For the last 25, 30 years, I knew where I had to be. I knew the people I was going to be with. The only thing that, was kind of guesswork was the type of calls that we were going to go to. But what I knew is this is where I had to be every third day. And these are the people that I was going to be with in the department. And there's a lot of angst, I think, that goes with that. And talking to them about how that's going to look. For us, for first responders, for military, for law enforcement, I think a lot of times that our job is kind of our identity for a little bit.
Uniform personnel, yeah.
So you're used to walking into Publix with your uniform and people thanking you for your service, or people having that, respect for first responders all across the board. And it's what my guys say is, what is that going to look like? Now I'm going to go to Publix and it'll be like any other Publix shopper, and nobody's going to do that. And, we try to express to them that, look, this is what you did for your career and your job and your profession. And you've honored that. You spent 30 years doing that. But you're more than that. You're who you are.
Right.
But I think a lot of people have been really struggling with that because they're really tied up into that. And that's what's kind of our concern is, what does that look like for them after this?
Yes.
Are they going to come back? They're going to hang out at the fire department. They're going to be with their shift every A shift, having coffee with the guys every morning. There are also retirement groups, and some of our guys have kind of went into a group and they get together for breakfast once a month just to kind of keep that camaraderie and stuff. But it's a concern for us, especially for us, as they move forward and as what you experience yourself moving into that phase of your life, and how does that look? And I had one of our guys that actually retired early and said, look, you can only hunt, fish, golf so much. And he goes, and a lot of my friends are still working. So I find myself, having a lot of free time. And for us, sometimes free time is not a great thing to do, on how you use that free time. So
Idle time.
So one of the things we talked about that you were so passionate about was really having something in place for people as they retire, as they move forward. And I know you've been working on this. I know you've done a ton of research, but some of those things that you found, what are some of those things that you found interesting, stuff that we may or may not know, but as we move forward, and then what does that future look like, and the stuff that you're working on with ATC to kind of develop those programs?
Yeah. So, idle time for anybody is never a good time, right? It can be. What are you spending your focus on? What is your time? Is it constructive or is it destructive? Is it boredom that leads to activity that maybe isn't good for you or potentially great for you. There's a choice. There's a conscious choice. Some people understand that. Some people don't. So when you go in to have something to look forward to, that next phase, you know, for years when I was in the fire service, I was a professional musician, and there was a point where I was playing at a very high pro level, and people would actually say to me, "Hey, pick a career path," and I'd say, "Well, aren't I doing well in what I'm doing here?" I took both seriously, but one was really my therapy, and I'm not sure which was which at times, right? So, but that being said, I'm glad I didn't like take that to heart and stop, because going into retirement said I had something else to do, and it would be a phase in, and I had more time to do that. Well, you know, life is life, and things change. And that first year of what I was talking about, don't make any radical changes. What about COVID? COVID comes along and puts a kibosh on plans. Now what? So I never thought that I would be able to replace the passion of what I did for a living. I thought if I were to take, you know, if I just put my time into my wife and myself and our family and let that be my new passion, my new purpose, because there's a redefining of who you are in retirement, leading up to and then into it, and then as you move forward. And things we don't plan on are, what if you have financial issues, physical issues, all kinds of health concerns? How does that work out into your big plan? You know, so we've got to learn to be malleable. We have to learn how to move and make positive changes. What's the next best decision? Which I had to do musically, right? Because the music scene died, and I had great opportunity. It died. So all of a sudden, I find myself being referred to Karen and Scott, and I find myself there to talk to them about what can we do for firemen and their families. And I went, wow, it's a little too soon for me, but that's an interesting thing. So as we step forward in this, we're developing a program for retirees. We're developing this program that's going to have some coursework. And wouldn't it be nice if this coursework could become some sort of incentive for promotional purposes, for state CEUs that redo our inspector, whatever. But in there, the information of what do I wish I had known more about that I now know? What are the pitfalls? What are the signs that I might look out for if I'm in trouble? Where do I go for help if I need? There's so much information all over the place, and some of these organizations do a great job, but I've got to hunt all over this place. So what we're doing is we're developing coursework. We're developing an all-in-one location where you can find information that's good for you. What if you get out and you don't know what you like to do? It's not music. Maybe it's carpentry. Maybe it's beekeeping. Maybe it's race car, whatever. Something to put your time occupation in a positive category.
And I think, you know, we've kind of danced around it, but I think our concern is for our personnel is that this idle time that we call it is, what are they going to do with that? Are you going to pick up a drink? And then are you going to pick up 1, 2, 4, 10 because you're just either depressed or
Yes.
you need to self-medicate yourself as you're moving into that? So I think what we're talking about is not only preparing people. You know, it's great to have a plan. And Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. and I think that it's great to have a plan. And now all of a sudden we're out there and it's not exactly what we thought it would be. You know, we have these big plans, you're looking forward, and then the next thing you know is maybe your friends don't have as much time for you, or they're doing stuff with the department and you're kind of left out. And what are you doing? What are those thoughts and feelings? Our biggest concern is that you deal with those thoughts and feelings in a very constructive, healthy way, and understanding that, like you did, you're going to have some changes in your life, and you might be a little sad. And those are all normal feelings.
Correct.
But get help before those normal feelings start to be medicated feelings that are going to take all those 30 years, and you're going to go onto a spiral and have to dig yourself out of some despair. So I think what you've kind of worked with ATC and with Scott and Karen and coming up with something to prepare somebody, just, you know, in our business, you can't be too prepared.
Right.
So by being able to take all this information that you've got, and I know you guys have done a ton of work and a lot of great work, but to be able to do these seminars for people who are coming through and are thinking, listen, if you're thinking about retiring in the next year, this is something that you should start looking at now.
Yeah.
Start looking into that on what your life's going to look at. And we'll tell you some of those thoughts and feelings and get a bunch of people around to say, listen, this is what I felt, this is what I felt. So when you do feel it, you know that those are normal feelings. This is just part of the natural progression of life.
Yes.
So being able to deal with those. But for you, you know, you've had some kind of angst going into it, but what have other people told you, how they feel? And what are some of their anxieties and fears? And
some of the people have no idea what they're going to do still. And I go, well, what do you like to do? And I got one guy, a good friend of mine, he started working with, he wanted to build some stuff out of pallet wood. He didn't know where to start, but then he found out some guy, one of our guys, retired, happens to be a master carpenter. Well, they connected. And that connection, not only was it the connection, because we need to continue to connect, but he gained a skill and he got information on what kind of saws and what he needed and blah, blah, blah. And he built a few things and he had a great time. It was good for both of them. How many people can we multiply that in how many categories of different things to do? I think there's a lot. You know, what in relationship stuff, you hear people talking about their finances and about, I picked this plan or that plan and I'm investing this and I'm using this as a financial advisor. And the best investment we have, which I wish I knew more about, I wish I knew about my career, a cumulative injury in the psych world and in the physical world, because that ongoing injury affects us in our best outcome in our retirement years. And our goal is to get in those retirement years and actually be able to
enjoy
live it and love it. But the biggest investment we have is in our health and in our relationships. Now, do we realize that getting into this? Because in retirement, it's just me and my sweetheart, right? 24/7. I've got the good fortune of having an appreciative person in my life who kind of understands my weirdness, which is important. You know that. You got one of those, right?
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to have that, but it doesn't come with effort, with compromise, with all those things we need. So how important is that? I think we sometimes think we'll figure it all out later, but sometimes it's a lot of little pieces that build a lot of those blocks that can affect us in a negative way if we're not proactive in finding out this is a warning sign, this is a guidepost, this is an area we need to go to. So there's a lot of that information we can build into some sort of coursework which is informative, and not like test taking, but like just information coming from people who've been there, done that are respected in masses. And you get this, my most concerning item is finance or my relationship, or what am I going to do with my life, or what's next. So when I think about that for me, I've got to make adjustments to what I was thinking. That first year, hold off, don't make any radical plans. You know, my dad's 92. We have a home in Wellington. I don't necessarily need to be in Wellington for the rest of my life, but I'm there for my dad. Well, we have a beautiful cabin that I can't wait to get back to. My daughter lives in St. Pete. She's pregnant right now, right? They're incredible. We're going to be grandparents. Where are we going to end up? I think it's going to be just a switch, you know, but the adaptability, sometimes we get so rigid and we get so controlling because of what we've seen in our career. I don't know that we realize that our control issues are built on our own insecurity of fear factor of all the stuff we've seen, and we try to own and control everything because we want to make sure that we or our family members never go there.
Well, we might not realize it, but I guarantee you our family members realize that.
Yes.
And it might be a little, I'm sure it's difficult. I'm sure it was difficult for my kids. I'm sure it's difficult for my wife at times, because the things that we see really reflect a lot of the decisions And where other kids are doing that, we tend to be a little overprotective, and that's going to weigh on them as well.
Yeah.
So,
but think about our family. That's a great point. Is okay. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about our family, our fire rescue family, which is beautiful, right?
absolutely.
And what's so nice is my daughter, if she felt like someone was following her, when she was in any trouble, she could go to any fire station and say, my dad was, and she's got family
She's taken
connection.
care of.
Who gets that?
Right.
That's nice. So
It's one of the things that draws us to this job. Is
Exactly.
the brotherhood, the camaraderie. It's what really holds people together. I mean, you might get into this job because, you know, you might like the pension and you might like the days off, but this job will change you. If that's why you got here,
Yeah.
you will not, in a year, 5 years down the road, think that that's the same reason you got here. That whole perception will change while you're here. It's about serving the public, and it's about the camaraderie, and it's about all those other things. Collecting a paycheck and a pension is secondary to the things that we get to do.
Yeah.
We are in a unique situation in the fire service that we're out there to serve the public like nobody else can.
Yeah.
And what's interesting for that, we tell the new recruits, I sit down with them, and it starts from that very beginning. I said, you know, it's going to be interesting. You're going to go out today and you're going to put your uniform on for the first day, and you might be stopping at Publix on the way home or going somewhere, and somebody's going to thank you for your service. And I said, what's interesting is, and what you need to understand is that they're thanking you for your service, but you didn't do anything to deserve that yet in your career.
Right.
People before you have
Yes.
laid that groundwork.
Yes.
So take that, understand that our perception, there's very few jobs where somebody could hand you their newborn baby and allow you to just take it and go.
Yes.
You don't get that trust everywhere.
Yeah.
So public perception in that. But as you start coming through your career and as you start getting that feedback back from the public, that perception changes. What doesn't change is the things that we see and the bad things that we see. And in the fire service, I said, you're great while you're here. 30 years later, we boot you out the door and it's, hey, give us a call when you get a chance. And what we're doing is it's a disservice to our personnel to send them out the door. We wouldn't think about sending them into a fire unprepared. Why would we send them into retirement unprepared?
Exactly.
So the stuff that you're doing, and from what it sounds like, we're looking to get a big cross-reference of experts, maybe financial people and mental health and addiction specialists, and to talk about those things.
Yes.
And I want to be clear, because we've had this conversation, not everybody that leaves the fire service is going to have difficulty
That's
with
true.
drugs, alcohol, or
But why
behavioral
not?
health.
Why not?
But-
Or why the other side?
Exactly. So, and those people, we don't have to worry about them as much.
Right.
What we do have to worry about is that small percentage of people that need some kind of guidance and some kind of help.
And back to the family. Back to the family. I mean, when I got my axe at my retirement party, I had a gentleman who stood up and said, hang on, bring me those flowers over here. Jody, step aside a second. Let me get to the real heroes here. Brought my family up
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
said,
How cool is that?
it is the family that gets us through this. It was my wife that understands my need to sleep when I've had a rough shift. It was my wife that said, you know, a million things, right? But what kind of information did they have and where are they getting their information? So what we're doing, not only focused on you and I in our retirement and phases of our career, but we're
Family as
looking
well.
at the family. And, you know, the idea of having a symposium that's geared toward our mental wellness, our physical wellness for what we do in our family is something we're looking at very closely to develop into something great. Bring in our keynote speakers that say, hey, you think you're having issues? We've all had those issues. You think thinking about suicide is unusual? It's not. It's what you do with that information that matters. Our overexposure kind of makes it like an option. It really doesn't. It's not a good option ever. And yet we get overexposed to things, and we're seeing, 3 deaths related to suicide or drug and alcohol overdose kind of things to every 1 in line of duty death. That's unacceptable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And maybe you've got more information on that now, but those numbers are going to continue to be what they are until we find something else. And here's the thing, your department does great things for people. You've got your resilience page, you've got information that others don't. Some others do, but others, they mean well, but they either don't totally get it, or when they do get it, they get promoted and moved to another job, and someone moves into that position, and they don't start from, this was good, let's make it better. They go, I don't get that, let's just make it another checkbox thing. And that's nobody's fault. EAP, terrific program, if it works for you, if you get along with your people, if you're not embarrassed to be sitting in a waiting room when someone comes in and they say, hey, awkward, I'm here for my dermatology appointment. I got this thing in my head, right? Oh, no. This is the loony bin, by the way. So the stigma. So I don't care if you get what you need from petting a dog. I don't care if you get it from a collaborative organization, from your department, from your EAP, from your private psychologist, bowling, interaction, fishing. I don't care if you get what you need from anywhere. If you get what you need and know when you need it is really the issue. And having information that's available to you readily in a proactive, anonymous location that you can seek what you need and get the help you need directly, that's what we're working toward. To me, all of a sudden I say, that's more purposeful than what I did for a livelihood. And I go, whoa. And why is that? Because it's an industry I understand, and I know the players who I always looked up to,
Right.
And they're getting involved to do something better that is readily available to everybody. So there's no borders on this. This isn't my information. This is not your information. This isn't an organization's information. It's available. Go to the website, get what you need.
Gentlemen,
So-
if I could interrupt for a moment, I want to kind of bring this back around for a minute, because we're talking a lot about retirees and when people leave the service. In what we know from history is, for a long time, there was no sort of programming for military when they came out of the service. But then we found a rash of people who were becoming aggressive or having family problems or some sort of violence or turning to crime or drugs or alcohol. And we started to see this proliferation of all of this stuff. And they said, okay, we got to help our vets. Still not a good system, but we're working on it. Even in the NFL, they started looking at these people are coming out of the NFL with brain injuries and all sorts of stuff. The NFL has to step up. And when it's bad, they stepped up and say, we got to take care of our people. Is that the point we're at now with first responders? More importantly, what we're talking about here is the fire service. Have we reached that point where enough is enough? We need to do something different, or am I overreacting?
No, I think you're right on the money. I mean, not only is it time, it would have been time 10, 20 years ago. The fact that it's just coming about now, it's kind of funny. The fire service was really focused on line of duty deaths, and we've done a good job with decreasing those, although we still have some ways to go. But we never really thought about those, which could also be considered a line of duty death on all those things that, affect health and mental health as well. So we're behind the eight ball. I mean, there's times where I feel a little bit panicked and anxious about the fact that we have to do a lot in a short amount of time to be able to get everybody on the right track or moving forward to prevent somebody from taking their life or having a drug or alcohol problem. I think we're behind, and I think there's a little bit, although there's ATC and people like Jody and putting this out there. And now, we had no information to a ton of information, but no one real spot to get it really focused in and locked in, which is really great about your guys' program. But no, I think that it is about time. I don't think that we're overreacting at this at all. I think this is, for those people who have been in the fire service for a long time, I think they understand that this has been a problem. But we're just now, really, this is the tip of the iceberg and where we're going to go from here. And I think it's going to be nothing but benefit all of our people as they move forward and move through their careers, because now we have to address this. This is going to be the next big thing in the fire service. It's been that way, but it really needs every department, all fire department leadership, all the way down to the station captain, to be able to make sure that they're doing everything they can for the people that are doing the job. So,
Jody made a point to say that you guys are family, and that is a family situation. When you join any of the services like the fire department, you do join that group. But like all families, when the kid leaves home and goes off to college, they're still your kid, and you still want to be there for them. And we need to have that same adoptive attitude when somebody moves on and retires. We still want them. They're still part of the family. They still got to be treated with a certain amount of reverence and certainly get the help that they need. So, I mean, Karen and I are both just so proud to be working with you, Chief, and Jody. Jody, I got to say, your heart is bigger than most people I've ever met, and we appreciate that. But this is also important to us, isn't it, Karen?
Sure is. Personally,
I took the intervention course that ATC provided, and I've taken a lot of courses. I've been on peer team. I've taken all the CISM. Back in my military, I've had a lot of different courses, a lot of different training, and you'd think you had covered it all, right? But we know from what we did for a living, you've never seen it all. You haven't done it all. There's always going to be something. But there was information there that I got, and this light bulb went off in my head, and I said, and the course was on intervention. Now, I don't want to be an intervention guy personally, and I don't know that a lot of people do, but there are people that are geared for that. The information in that course was how to talk to people that are untalkable, how to approach people, watching body language, how to reflect and how to communicate with them, how to take the badges off and how to get the business, how to refer them to sources, how to get them there. I thought, man, just imagine if every station officer had this. Just like a peer support team person that gets an initial load of course training, but then that's it, and they did it for the right reasons, but they didn't get like a bundle of information that they could continue their wanting to help somebody. But here's the beautiful thing of it. If I'm a station officer and we run a bad call, and we feel that lull in the station, everyone's been disturbed by it on some level, but we're still on the alarm system, we're ready to go, right? We're still first ready to go, and we just ran the whatever, and your captain said, no, we're not gonna take us out of service and call in CIS, we're still gonna function. If you start to notice somebody, and we all do, we carry each other. We've made some mistakes. We've gone to people's houses and woke them up. Not me personally, but I know for a fact as an industry, we've woken people up and said, hey, come on, we got to get to work. And we get people that we've done what we had to do to protect our brothers. Not always the right thing, but certainly something that we do, right? But what if we had a little more information that was able to say, hey, you haven't been right after that call for 3 weeks. How's everything going? Not just the conversation, but the trusted relationship. Because I might not be right for you, but maybe they are, and maybe they've had the intervention course and they have a little more. It doesn't make them a psychiatrist. It makes them a brother or sister in the station that's willing to help. So they're able to take that information to a higher level. How much better off would we be as an industry? And it's really the peer council group in practice without as much training. So, okay, call it what you want, but if they had this particular coursework as a baseline, we'd be better. We'd be better.
I also took that class, and and again, I have no desire to do interventions,
right?
But I do have a desire to be able to know what has to be done.
Right.
And not everybody has to be a peer support team person or a CISM. They just have to be a human being to see another human being is hurting and want to reach out and to be able to help them.
Yeah.
I don't know that you really need any special training for that other than the fact that you really care.
Yeah.
And you're starting that conversation.
True.
But then knowing where to go, knowing that there's resources and to be able to do that. So for me, that course was really good. And although I have been through that class and have not taken the final test yet, but it was funny because I would talk to Karen and Scott and they go, we see you're only on module 6 and you've stalled a little bit.
It's
So
not like you have anything else to do,
the
right?
good news is that I've been through it. I just haven't taken the test. But the information on that, we actually sent our whole peer team through
That's great.
because that information, like you said, if you never want to sit in, maybe not, that's not your thing.
Right.
But to know, listen, this person really needs it.
Yeah.
And Scott and Karen do a great job through that whole thing about really being consistent about reiterating that things are important and what you have to look for and where this is going to go and to be able to turn those things around. But having that information is really, really good.
To help somebody else. But here's the flip side of it. Let's say I'm 5 years down the road after I had the class. And let's say I'm having trouble in my marriage. I find myself drinking or whatever. I find myself in a bad way. And it's me. Now I've got the information I know how to do for me.
Right.
And I know the other people that I can say, hey, can we just have a conversation? Can we meet for breakfast? Now I'm more apt to reach out. So we've built a network. You know, the Kiner General Fire Department is certainly in play these days. We know it. It has to be. It's a good thing. There are some suck it up buttercup, good old boy days, all that kind of stuff that will phase out eventually. We hope, because we need people to embrace the brother sisterhood as much as possible, where we care about each other, where we want the best outcome from them, where we're in a position where I understand what you're going through because I go through it too.
Right.
Maybe I went through something that you need a little, especially someone new coming on a department who's never seen anything and now they're seeing everything. What do you do? How do you process that information? Do you have the coping skills? Do you have the mentorship? Are you fortunate enough to have the earshot of good information that a few of us get along the way? Wouldn't it be nice if that good information was in a place where we could all get it if we're interested?
And I think that's the goal. The
Yes.
goal is to be able to reach out, to get everybody in a one-stop shop to where you can go get all the information that you need to make an informed decision, whether or not it's about yourself, whether or not it's about somebody you work with.
Yes.
It doesn't even have to be somebody in the fire service. I
Right.
mean, addiction is addiction.
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know, depression's depression and all those things. So it's really just, it scans not just the fire service and the military and police, but in all aspects of our lives, because who's not touched with either mental health issues or know somebody or drug or alcohol or substance abuse, who's not affected by that in some way, shape, matter, or form?
In my paramedic school years ago, you may remember Bob Nixon. I don't know if you
I do know.
Bob was a great educator.
Yeah.
And he, may he rest in peace. I understand he's passed, but he had great information. My first day of paramedic school, he said, I don't know, 38 people were in the class. I don't know if you guys know what you're getting into, but let me just show you. And he started showing videos and started showing film, just some of the stuff that we see. And it was pretty appalling, right? But over time, you get conditioned in this way where you can see it now. Not only are you seeing the fractured skull, but you're going like, oh, cool, look, you know. But we go from like, oh my God, to now you're looking at it from a physiological standpoint, and you compartmentalize stuff.
Right.
When he said, this is what you're getting into. If you're still interested after this class, come back next week. We lost more than half the people. I don't know if anyone else who went to paramedic school that got any sort of like heads up, this is what you're getting into. I'm sure it happens, but it's not the norm. But where's the mental wellness, proactive portion in our training, right? So that coursework is needed. That's something we're working toward. I'm hopeful that what we're able to provide is something that benefits people for a lifetime of goodness, you know?
And you make a good point. What we've done is for a while now in our recruit class, we have a 4-hour behavioral health block that discusses not only what the state mandates are, but it also goes above and beyond that.
Great model.
It really talks about, listen, you're having normal reactions to abnormal circumstances. And
Yes.
it's what you do with that. And those are all expected. And to go through that, we include those things in officer development academies. Every one of our officer development academies has a behavioral health component to it. Only because, again, and we've talked about this, as administration, we don't see our people every day.
Right.
But a captain does.
Yes.
But a lieutenant does, but somebody does. So for them to have this training is so important for them to be able to reach out to somebody. Listen, we talked about this last week. The best time to put out a fire is in that incipient, that early phase.
Yeah.
So why wait until it gets so bad out of control where we're going to wake somebody up because they overslept, because they were drinking the day before, and now we need them on shift.
Yeah.
If we can take that same passion for protecting them and their mental health as we do for their job, then maybe that would all kind of, work itself out and be just another step for us to be able to reach out.
What you're doing here is a great model, and hopefully other people will rise to the occasion.
Well, we
And I know you. This has never been about you. This has always been about a better way, and a way that it could be. And why not step through that door? And no.
There you go.
This is a good point, because we're getting towards the end of the show.
I want the record to show that I silenced my phone.
Yeah,
I did too.
everybody did. We just left that out there for Jody, but
Right, exactly.
all right. So I just want to wrap this up, because we are towards the end of the show, and we will pick this up again in some shows that are coming with the table talk. But retirees, people who are still in the service, it's really about communication, education, and responsibility, and being responsible for each other, communicating with each other, and sharing as much education as we can with each other. And that's where we're going to start to make the difference. The idea of just putting your head in the sand and pretending that call didn't happen, or pretending that Bob's really okay when he went home and he started yelling and screaming and breaking furniture, and pretending everything's okay. We can't afford that anymore. The intervention course, as you guys talked about, is available, and it's a tool that Karen and I are very proud of, that we bring to the first responders and the fire service, because it's not just about addiction. It's about mental health. It's about de-escalation. It's about trauma. All it is, it's about recognizing somebody's having trouble with something and being able to communicate with them. How many times have we walked away from an individual saying, I wish I'd said something different that would have helped them? This is what this course is about. It's about being able to connect in those times of crisis, big crisis or small crisis, because if you ignore the small ones, you'll have the big ones. So we definitely want to do that. But that's, and you guys being on board, it's such an honor for us to work with people like you, people who want to keep moving forward and not just keep the status quo, who do such fine service for your departments, your communities, and your families and your friends. And we're very proud, very grateful to have you guys on our side. And we're very humbled to be working with you in any way at all.
Well, we're glad to have you on our side as well, because you bring a lot to this table. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, we could only, we don't have the expertise that you do. We can just bring it out there and direct people to you guys, but you guys are the experts. And when it all comes down to it, we know for a fact that there has been many first responders that you guys personally helped. We appreciate that. But you guys are the experts. So we're just taking your lead. We'll get the word out there, and we just got to get them to you guys to do all the good work.
We are so honored, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We talk about this, yeah.
Absolutely. And, in trying to work within a bubble only works for so long before the air becomes stale and there's nothing new coming in. So we got to bust the bubble, and we've got to cross our information and help each other. Let's be honest. Fire service, your office is not where you're sitting. Your office is on the streets and in the communities. And guess what? We're in your office every day. So we're already connected. So if there's something that we can do to help further your cause, we're there for you, because we know you have, over the years, have always been there for us.
Absolutely true.
All right, Keith, thank you, bud.
Again,
Always
thank you. Good to see you. Karen,
awesome.
Scott, thank you guys again. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you both from the bottom of my heart, and from ATC and us. We certainly appreciate everything you do, and allowing us to be part of what you do is a true honor, as Scott said.
Have a great day.
All All right, for that, I want to thank Jody Marlow and Chief Keith Bryer. I'm never going to get that wrong again. I promise you that will never happen again.
Called worse.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all of us can fall under that. But
Thank you both.
But this has been Table Talk, brought to you by ATC and ACC. It's Addiction Training Center and Addicted Communities Coalition. So proud to be working with our family of firefighters. And make sure you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe so that you find out when our next shows are coming out, and get involved. And don't forget to thank everybody for their service when you see them out on the street,
Yes.
because of all the great things that they do. With that, I'm Scott Jones for Karen Hurley.
I'm Karen Hurley.
Thank you very much for
Bye.
joining us. We'll catch you next time.